Guys, what's going on?
First of all, don't treat your dead cat like that. I did bury a guinea pig in my backyard. Okay, freaks, we're back again. So welcome back to episode 2. We are gathered here today to read another of Stephen King's novels. I read The Shining last year. I got so many comments on the Stephen King vlog that I did of where to go next, what should I read next, and almost everyone, had to say the same thing. You all said Pet Sematary. You all said, please read Pet Sematary, both in terms for where should I go next, which is the scariest Stephen King you've ever read, and also which one do you think that I would like the best. Everyone voted Pet Sematary. No clue what it's about. My guess from this cover, I can't tell if I love it or hate it. I love the cat, green eyes. If I had to guess what this was about, I mean, I've thought my whole life Pet Sematary was about, like, people's dead pets coming back to life. That sounds amazing. That sounds so cute. I don't think a Stephen King book is going to be a heartwarming time about kids' dead pets coming back to life and they get to live happily ever after with them. Something tells me that's not what this is about. I saw my very first Pet Sematary myself. I'd never seen a Pet Sematary before, I'd never come across one, and I will take you there. I will take you there in this video. Maybe we can even read Pet Sematary in the Pet Sematary. Also, I've never understood, and I've been obviously very interested to see why it's spelt cemetery. Okay, there's actually an introduction by Stephen King. This is really interesting. When I'm asked what I consider to be the most frightening book I've ever written, the answer I give comes easily and with no hesitation: Pet Sematary. It may not be the one that scares readers the most. That one is probably The Shining, but the fear bone, like the funny bone, is located in different places on different people. All I know is that Pet Sematary is the one I put away in a drawer thinking I had finally gone too far. Time suggests that I had not, but certainly I had gone too far in terms of my own personal feelings. Put simply, I was horrified by what I had written and the conclusions I'd drawn. What? He was horrified by what he had written? Am I going to be scared of my cats afterwards, or am I going to be scared for my cats afterwards? Is this thing on? Yeah, okay. Howdy. I am here to tell you it's the next day, and I am here to tell you I have started, and just a tiny bit of the way through Pet Sematary. I've actually had a pretty rough morning because before I sat down to start this, I got a message, and yeah, I've just been spending my morning crying, honestly, just feeling very, very sad, and sad for the friend that sent me the message because I woke up this morning to a text that said one of my friend's cats had passed away this morning, and I really love that cat. Spent a number of years growing up with that cat, loving that cat, and so when they messaged me that their cat had passed this morning, that was really sad. I love that guy. Love that little wonderful black cat who had one little white patch on like the tip of his tail. This wonderful cat did live a very long, healthy life. He was so wonderful, and I'm just thinking about him today, and obviously thinking about him even more because then I sat down to start Pet Sematary, and I don't know if this is the time to be reading it. As someone who loves cats so much, I don't know if this is going to be the easiest read of my life. I really don't. I've got through 34 pages, so now I do have a better idea of what it's actually about and not what I was just surmising to you yesterday, so I can tell you that. But we have this family, Louis, like I said, who is going to be working at the university in the town that they're moving to in Maine. He is a doctor, and then we have his wife, Rachel, and their 2 kids. We have the older daughter, Eileen, who is just starting kindergarten, I think, and then they also have a baby, I don't know how old he is, named Gage, and he's just a little baby. And then maybe their most important family member is Eileen's cat, whose name is Winston Churchill, and they just call him Church for short, which I think is so cute. He's a tomcat. I don't know what color he is or anything about him. They move into this gorgeous, beautiful house, and it has a huge property. They already have met their neighbors. Louis describes their neighbors across the street, who are this like really wonderful, very kind elderly couple in their like 70s and 80s. He describes this man, Judd, across the street as the father that he never had because Louis never knew his father. He died when he was very young, and so this guy, Judd, he just feels like the father he should have had, and they've already become really good friends. They're helping each other out. It's a great neighborly relationship. Love when you move somewhere and the neighbors are just wonderful, and you guys really hit it off. So everything seems great. I guess it's on his property. I guess he does he technically own it? But if you go way back, there's a path carved in like the hill because their house leads up a huge hill where they can kind of see everything, and it's just gorgeous, beautiful Maine description. But they have a pet cemetery back there that Judd shows them. Eileen is very interested in it, and this cemetery goes back years, like back before even I think 1900, and I think we're set in the 80s in Pet Sematary if I'm not mistaken. It's like 1983, but the cemetery has so many dogs, cats, goldfish, parakeets, other random animals that the kids have buried there, and it's just like a really emotional space to be in because you have all these tombstones that kids have just spent hours laboriously carving into, writing the name of their pet and then writing a little dedication or inscription that tells them that most of the animals buried in the pet cemetery unfortunately lost their lives on the road outside of Louie's new home. So like him and Judd live across the road from each other, and the road, like Route 15 I think it is so busy with big trucks. The amount of mentions made to this road is very concerning. We know something is going to be happening with this road. Louis, when he moved into his big house, he's had a couple moments of like intense fear, like really just harrowing, acute fear when he's walked into different rooms or hallways in his house. Is like those moments when you pass over a cold spot and he's been like, what the hell's going on? All of the dead trees that have fallen over have created this like barricade, I guess, around the pet cemetery, but he's like, that does not look natural. Judd is like don't let your kids stray off the path because they are just gonna go missing. Like the forest is absolutely huge. The amount of places to go, like you're just not gonna find them. The kids are gonna get absolutely lost. The woods where you live are just like endless, vast. You think you're close to town, you're really not. The way that he describes certain things are so disturbing. That's what I really miss. Like the way that he describes the road, he said that the road uses up a lot of animals, and just the way he's describing the way that the pets are dying on the road is so disturbing because the road is like now this like its own malevolent force that has its own ideas, its own drive, its own hunger, and it uses up the animals. And it's like, well, using them for what? You know, it's like this, ugh, it's creepy. It is creepy. I've also chosen my bookmark. Of course, it has to have a little cat on it. I think this one is going to disturb me more than The Shining because when it's stuff having to do with animals, that really upsets me. I have a little black coffee. I've been dipping in and out of Pet Sematary, and it's really, 80 pages through. I'm enjoying it. The one thing that I keep thinking of is I just really love how in the two, I guess this is the second Stephen King book I've read now, but in the two that I've read, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different avenues to explore. There's a lot of different things to think about. Each character has their own darkness within them. Yeah, darkness in different fonts, and it's so cool to look at all the different like aspects and elements that he has woven throughout Pet Sematary. So what do I want to tell you 80 pages through? The visit to the Pet Sematary, like the first visit they all took, was not without consequence, especially for their daughter Eileen, because that was the first time, I think she's like 5, which this book is just bringing up a lot for me, like a lot of memories from when I was a kid as well, but that was her first time really having like a hands-on, tangible, fully digesting and fully understanding an experience with death for her, because I guess at 5 she's never had a pet die, she's never had a loved one die, she's never really experienced death yet, and like seeing the tombstones in the cemetery was really hard for her, and she's been really morose and really upset ever since. She had a huge breakdown with her father in the Pet Sematary because obviously in her mind she's now connected the dots that her cat is one day gonna die, and she cannot accept this fact at all, which is fair. I understand. When they go, I go.
Feinstein goes away, I go away.
But she gave such like a beautiful little speech. She says, I don't want Church to be like all those dead pets. I don't want Church to ever be dead. He's my cat. He's not God's cat. Let God have his own cat. Let God have all the damn old cats he wants and kill them all. Church is mine. He's my cat. He's not God's cat. Let God have his own cat. That just broke my heart. This reminds me of a time. This really reminded me of a very unhappy, but also very like core memory of mine, and like a core, you know, everyone has those stones in their lives. When I was 5, the same age, my dog died. Our family dog died, who I had grown up with up until that point, never been without him, lived ever since I burst out of the womb with this dog forever. His name was Murphy. I was obviously quite upset, but the one little gram of hope and comfort and solace I could find in the situation was that because I was like raised and brought up in a Christian household, I thought to myself that I would obviously be able to see my dog again in heaven. I was like, okay, he's not here right now. I'm gonna see him when I get up there. So I told my parents like, hey, it's okay, I'm really sad, but I'm gonna see Murphy again. And they're like, psych? No, you're not. You're not gonna see that dog again. That dog does not have a soul. So you shan't see him ever again. He's gone. Yeah, that was the day I learned that in, obviously, I guess certain Christian beliefs is believed animals don't have souls, they don't go to heaven, and you're not gonna see them again. I should get over it. I should be over it by now. But I'm not. Like, a absurdly, like, humorous thing to say to a grieving 5-year-old who has just lost their companion. Like, no, you're not gonna see him again. He's just dead cold in the ground. Lie. Just lie. You're feeding me Santa Claus slop, and yet you can't just let me believe that I'm gonna see my dog again someday. Very angry, like Eileen, very sad, and very just, like, not willing to accept that that was a reality or that that was a world that I would be living in. Probably a few days later or a week later, just like being left with that to stew, I painted a painting. It's not very good. I just painted a beautiful day, trees, the sky, blah, 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 and then I put a tombstone for Murphy's grave, and then I put the dug earth of the grave because he had come out of the grave, and next to the grave, my dog is standing with 2 angels taking him up to heaven. And then on the right side of the painting, separated from them because I can't be with them yet, is little 5-year-old me watching it, knowing it's happening and being like, okay, amazing, I will get to see my dog again. At this point, I don't know if I will see my dog again, but I do know that he's with me in everything I do. The big G was not really in my good books after that. Back to the actual book and actual children coping with like the thought of their animal not being with them in the future. Louis, there's a lot of tension now between Louis and Rachel. They have different ideas on what their child should be told about death. However, Rachel is very scarred and very traumatized and is very biased because of this incident that happened when she was a young girl as well, when her sister died over like a really long, I think stretched out, very, very suffering time of, I don't know what disease she had, but she had a really just horrific death and like dying process. And so this has just scarred Rachel from ever thinking about death, from ever wanting to get near it, encounter it, talk about it. So they keep fighting about what Eileen should realistically be told. And then the other half of that is that they're like, yo, we need to go fix our cat because we're just letting our cats wander. No such thing as an indoor cat. I think in the 80s, people hadn't really been like, maybe it's better if we just keep them inside to keep the cats and the birds and the ecosystem safe. Louis goes to work the next day or whatever for his first day as the like doctor in residence for the university. So he's going to take care of any of the college kids who come in and like need help, or if they have anything, if they have a cough, blah, blah, blah. He's going to be the doctor who cares for the campus, the on-campus doctor. And this guy is brought in by his friends, and he's just like kind of thrown on the floor. His neck is broken and a huge chunk of like his skull is missing, so Louis can see his brain and everything like that all up in there. And he's like, well, crap, this is like my first day on the job and someone is literally dying in front of me. He knows there's like no use in calling the ambulance. This kid is like dead. It so happens that he was hit by a car while he was out jogging with his friends in the morning. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm like, all the different avenues that we're examining here. Obviously, when the road was introduced, Route 15 with the big trucks, I was like, oh, okay, vehicular infrastructure as a site for danger and death and violence, which needs to be talked about so much more, especially with the way things are going in, even where I am. The premier here, if you don't know him, I wish I didn't, is trying to go around telling people that like bike lanes are dangerous. Bike lanes are the real danger. And he's trying to dismantle the city's bike lanes. Like just take them down, even though cyclists keep dying. It's like such a horror that is accepted, the way that the car and car infrastructure is just the end all be all, the God we serve more often than not in North America. However, the man, while he's dying on the floor of Louis' like office, he tells him something and it's so creepy. He says, in the Pet Sematary, And then he says, "It's not the real cemetery." And then he mysteriously says, "The soil of a man's heart is stonier, Louis. A man grows what he can and tends it." And he knows the doctor's name. He is laying in bed that night. He has what he thinks is a dream where this kid, whose name is Victor, comes into his room, opens the door, and he's like, "Yo, come with me." And of course, Victor takes him in, like, I guess ghost form to the pet cemetery. And then while he's there, he says destruction. I think he says something along the lines of like, "Destruction is coming for you and your entire family." Louis wakes up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, thank God that was a dream." What's on his feet? The mud and the sticks and the pine needles from his walk up the hill in the middle of the night. Anyway, this book is making me think about a lot, and also obviously very mysterious, that the ghost of Victor has said, or the dying Victor guy has said, "It's not the real cemetery." Kind of like two lines of thought right now. Like I said before, I'm really loving the talk about the dangers of the road and of cars and of how ultimately violent and how much of a threat they are and how normalized it is in society, especially the way that it's like treated with stuff, just obviously as an example, bike lanes and stuff. Because at first it was clearly just perceived as a threat to animals and to young children who might unknowingly cross the road. Like a grown man has been hit by a car and died. So I really like that exploration as well. And then I'm thinking that might tie eventually into the idea that I have of what the real cemetery might be, because there's only been a few sentences here and there at the beginning that the land, one of the first things was that the land that Louis' house is on is like really close by, or is it like adjacent to some, I don't know if it's to the north or to the east, land that the Micmac indigenous people are like, "Hey, please, like, can we have this back? Can we have this back now? Like, please give us back our land." So there's this whole litigation going on with that at the time that Louis and his family move in. So like that was the first thing. But because there's been also a lot of talk of history through the mouth of Judd, for example, who seems to be this history book because he's been living in the same small town. It's like 1900, literally. He seems to be a wealth of history. We're continually learning about different people who have lived on the land, died on the land. There's a lot of references to different wars, obviously like World War I, the Korean War, and then there's also been a couple of remarks when, for example, when Victor visits Louis in his dream, the blood on his face, I think it's remarked that it looks like war paint. The fact that he said it's not the real cemetery, feeling that maybe it's heading, I don't know if it is, maybe it's heading in the direction of like a lot of unmarked graves. I don't know if like they're near a residential school or anything like that, but Louis was told not to venture beyond the confines of the pet cemetery because there's something out there. I am going to continue on reading, I think, a little bit more. I'd kind of like to get to the 100-page mark at least today. A little scared. Bam. Do you hear that? Oh my gosh. Guys, do not bang on doors so loudly when I'm reading a scary book. I don't know if I like the old couple anymore. I don't know if I like the nice elderly couple anymore. Sorry to update you yet again. It's Halloween night. Gage, the baby, is not going out trick-or-treating because he's come down with like some kind of respiratory bronchitis, something. I don't think that's gonna go well. He might be coughing his last now, something tells me. So it's just Louis, Rachel, and Eileen going over to Judd and Norma's house. Norma is Judd's wife. She has really, really bad arthritis. And I just love the way that he'll write a paragraph. And so far it's like very atmospheric, nice, homely, Halloween stuff. And you're reading, there's probably about like 7 sentences in the paragraph, and then you'll hit one and you just kind of skid over it at first because you're reading quite quickly. You're in like a scene of like domestic happiness, childhood nostalgia, cotton candy, fun. And then you just like snag on that sentence and you're like, what? Hold on, let me read that again. And it's just like something is a little off with it. So Eileen had taken an apple and a bite-sized Snickers bar out of the treat bowl on the table, but both of them had fallen out of her hand. Louis was a little shocked at how claw-like that hand looked. Just a little wrong, you know, it's just a little uncanny. Also, there's a remark made about Judd, because I was just telling you that he speaks a lot about history, seemingly like a lot of years of history. He would talk about the history of the town going back 300 years, almost as though he had lived all of it. Almost as though he had lived all of it, or as though he did in fact live all of it. And then a couple pages later, while they're at his house for Halloween, his wife with the arthritis has a fall, and it's remarked that Judd lunged through the door, amazingly spry for a man of over 80. No, more than spry. Again, almost lithe. I don't know, I don't like him anymore. I don't trust him anymore. And also the first time, here's why I don't trust him, okay? Here's my evidence. The first sentence of the book is about Judd. So that's quite significant, because it was Louis remarking that Judd was like the father figure he never had. So he's like quite a central figure character in his life. Also, the first time that we meet Judd, Louis thinks that he's probably in his 70s. It turns out he's actually 83, and it's been remarked probably 4 times now about how like active and like not breaking a sweat this guy is. When Judd took them up for the first time to see this Pet Sematary, Louis was really struggling like with his cardio, whereas Judd, the 83-year-old, is like not breaking a sweat, which is weird. And now it seems like he's almost spry. Sorry, again, more evidence. He's also remarked a lot about all of the kids who have buried their pets in the pet cemetery. Is it even really a pet cemetery? Are there even animals down there? Are there kids down there? I don't know, it just seems like Judd and Norma as well keep like a mental catalog of every kid who's ever buried an animal there, and they like seem to know a lot about the kid and their history and the years they lived. I see you, Judd. I see something ain't right here. Something's not adding up. I don't like him. I don't trust him. Are there even animals down there? Ugh, are there even animals down there? No. No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why? Grendel, get up here right now. I need some moral support. I think now I can talk about it, now that I have a cat here with me. Thank you, buddy. He just got up at the exact moment I read that page and came on over and plopped himself down. Church is dead. No. Do you believe me? I think you know what I'm thinking. There is something going on with your neighbor, buddy. Welcome to day 2 of reading Pet Sematary by Stephen King. So much has happened in this book. I would like to gather up the people who told me to read this, to pick it up, and I would like to have a little word with you. This morning I was reading it and I started crying. My mental health this week has been in the dumps, just like in the gutter. Not like the best time, I think, to pick up a Stephen King novel when you're already in... I think I stopped filming last night when Church died, but I have so much to tell you because I don't think he got hit by a truck. Okay, so what was I telling you? It was Thanksgiving and Louis' family, like the rest of him, his 2 kids and his wife without him, went back to visit Rachel's family while he stayed at home. And he gets a call from Judd. I've said some things about Judd so far. Judd's like, yo, there's a cat here. We got a cat here. We got a situation. You should come see if it's your cat. And Louis' like, no. And of course he knows that it is his cat. It's inevitably Church. It's Winston Churchill. And he goes over and lo and behold, it is Church. But really flipping sus. Okay, because it says, of course it was Church, but he was in no way mangled or disfigured. He had not been run over by one of the big tankers or semis that cruised Route 15. His eyes were half open, as glazed as green marbles. A small flow of blood had come from his mouth, which was also open. Not a great deal of blood, just enough to stain the white fur on his chest. They're not gonna look like that. They're not gonna look like almost perfect, almost like nothing is wrong. Like, yeah, his neck is broken, but like there's no sign of like, I mean, we've seen roadkill. He thought he could reconstruct what had happened. Church had been crossing the road, and a car or truck had hit him, breaking his neck and throwing him aside onto Judd's lawn. Or perhaps the cat's neck had been broken when he struck the frozen ground. It didn't matter. Church was dead. And the whole time that Louis is out on Judd's front lawn inspecting Church, we get just like creepy sentences and description about Judd. Louis couldn't see Judd's face, and the uncomfortable feeling persisted that this could have been anyone at all. Who is this Judd guy? Who is it? Literally was so crushed last night. I was like, obviously we knew this was gonna happen, but I can't do it. And then to make matters worse, he's like, well, crap, like my daughter Eileen isn't here, I'm gonna have to tell her. And Judd is like, let's go bury Church in the pet cemetery. So they put Church into a bag, grab shovels, and they go to the pet cemetery, but Judd's like, I'm gonna take you somewhere else. You have to follow me. Don't do it. They obviously go over the deadfall, past the real, or the first pet cemetery and beyond. And lo and behold, the path that originally leads up to the pet cemetery continues snaking through the woods. It's like, I thought it was the middle of the night, but time as well in this area once they cross the deadfall, which is that huge pile of dead trees and all those branches, sticks, logs, timber. Time seems to work a little bit differently, and as he's following Judd through the forest, Louis gets the sense more and more that it's not Judd at all that he's following. They finally get to this place in the forest where it's kind of this hill that they've climbed up, and the top is like very flat, like a mesa, and he's like, well, how is this here? Judd lets him know that the Micmacs sanded off the top of the hill. No one knows how. It was their burying ground. I brought you here so you could bury Ellie's cat. The Micmacs didn't discriminate, you know, they buried their pets right alongside their owners. And Judd says, because you saved Norma's life. I forgot to tell you, Norma had a heart attack, and Louis was there, so he saved her life. And although he sounded sincere, and Louis was positive he believed himself sincere, he had a sudden overpowering sense that the man was lying, or that he was being lied to and then passing the lie onto Louis. Guys, what's going on? But later on, not even the Micmacs themselves would come here. One of them claimed he saw Wendigo here and that the ground had gone sour. And then by the time they get back, like it's only 9 p.m., but Louis is like certain it's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And Louis is like, yo, what did we just do up there, dude? Like, why did you bring me up to the top of the hill and make me bury my cat in the middle of the forest? And Judd's just like, don't question it, accept what's done and follow your heart. Okay, and then he also says something else. Judd is like, I buried my dog Spot up there when I was 10. He was chasing a rabbit and he ran on some rusty barbed wire. The wound's infected and it killed him. Something in that does not ring a bell, because the first time that Judd took his family to the pet cemetery, Judd was like, oh, my dog Spot is also here. He died of old age. I have the receipts, Judd. I have the receipts. I know that you're lying. Louis has to call his family and be like, everything's fine here. And Eileen is like, please kiss the cat for me. I was so upset until I sat down this morning to keep reading. Do you know who walks onto the page? Cat comes back. He's back, but he's a little different. It was around 1 o'clock that afternoon when Church came back, like the cat in the nursery rhyme. I was so happy I started crying. Yeah, he's kind of like definitely giving zombie cat vibes a little bit. Like something's not right with Church. Even more creepy. At first Louis like, maybe that's just a cat that looks like our cat, but then he notices that the cat has like the garbage bag, parts of the garbage bag that he was buried in his mouth. So this cat definitely clawed his way out of the burial ground, out of the garbage bag, and he's back. I mean, I don't know what the problem is. Invite him in, sit him down. Your zombo cat is here to stay. I'm more worried about Judd, okay? Louis is incredibly creeped out by this cat, and he's like, I don't want to touch that cat anymore. I'm about 144 pages through. Judd is like, hey, come over for a beer, and he definitely knows that they buried Church there in order to like resurrect him or bring him back to life. And he tells Louis more about the area where he was buried. The Wendigo had walked through their village or encampment while they were sleeping and touched them. And the Wendigo was supposed to give those it touched a taste for the flesh of their own kind. I'm calling it now, but someone is gonna eat someone else before the book ends, or you can have my button collection. Maybe the cat. It's probably the cat. The cat is probably gonna eat someone. And honestly, I'm so here for it. Like, so then we find out that that is the weird reason that Judd was like, oh, my dog Spot died of old age. But he's like, the first time he died. The first time my dog Spot died was with the infection when I was like 10. And then he buried Spot in the same burial ground and Spot came back. Did Judd bury himself? Is it explaining why he's so like sprightly and full of so much more like energy, strength, and like really weird physical capacity than an 83-year-old would typically have? Did he bury himself in the ground? What happens if you put a person in there? What could go wrong? I'm still really enjoying my time with it. Like, I want to sit down and just read the whole book and just like it's really addicting. Once again, I find his writing addicting. There's been like a few weird, I guess, like Stephen King moments where, for example, when Louis was doing CPR on Norma, Judd's elderly wife, who was dying of, or who was, I mean, she was kind of dying of a heart attack. He's like imagining how her breasts would have looked like when she was a young woman and how all the guys must have been going crazy for her boobies. And I'm like, just do the CPR, man. That's what you're thinking while you're doing CPR? I don't know, is the cat gonna eat them? Is the cat gonna eat them? Today I was getting like deeply unsettled and deeply just like creeped out by Judd, but now like, I don't know what his motive is. I don't know what his motive is. He keeps saying like, I hope I did the right thing. And I'm like, were you trying to help Louis by bringing his kid's cat back? Or is there something more sinister going on here? Do you somehow benefit from the deaths of animals? Why are you so sprightly and lively? Like, are you a vampire? What is going on here? I don't know. I don't know if this is actually in the end gonna scare me. I say that now. Anyway. I have my raspberry leaf tea, and I think I want to take a break soon, actually, because I just feel like I need to take a break from it. I was overjoyed when Church came back, and now I'm like, nah, bro. No, he should have stayed. You should have left him dead, actually. When I found out he came back and he was kind of acting like a little bit of a zombie cat, I'm like, okay, that's not gonna be really scary to me. I just love the cat so much, but the way that Stephen King is writing about the cat, he's done it, and I'm very impressed because my stomach is kind of queasy when I think about Winston Churchill, the cat, now, because he's just like so dead. He's described as like he went somewhere and he didn't come all the way back from that place, and it's just like on him. He's a little vacant, he's a little different. And then Judd has also told Louis that other animals he's known that have been brought back turned violent and, you know, not very nice. And so far that hasn't really happened yet, but I'm imagining maybe that's where this is going. I also have a new theory now, because now that Rachel and his baby Gage is back, I don't know how old he is. I think he's actually more of a toddler now, potentially, but he came back with a virus, his son, and his fever. He has a really high fever right now. He's really not doing well. I think he's gonna die. I have a feeling he's gonna die, and I have a feeling that then Louis is gonna go bury his son up there in order to bring him back. Also really creepy because Louis actually did ask Judd, like, hey, has anyone ever buried a human up there? And Judd is like, what? Oh my, no one has ever done that. Why would you ask that? Don't even think about it. Like, that has not happened. Louis like, I get the feeling he was lying, and I'm like, yeah, I think he is lying. People have been buried up there, and I think his son Gage is next. I also love the fact that our main character is a doctor. I think that it adds a little layer to it because they're talking about playing God and stuff like that. Anyway, I really enjoy reading out this copy as well. It's a perfect floppy paperback. Kelsifer is sleeping behind me. He's right behind me, isn't he? Look who's in my closet tonight. This little cat. After I just read a scene about the zombie cat in the closet in the toddler's bedroom, refusing to leave and being really scared. Okay. Welcome to day, is it only day 3? How can it only be day 3 of reading Pet Sematary by Stephen King? We're up to page 228 this fine morning. Yeah, I would say I'm like pretty upset. Let's start somewhere way back because I read a lot since I last updated you and not that much has happened, but I feel like I do have a lot that I actually want to talk about. Number 1, Judd's wife Norma has finally passed away of like either maybe an aneurysm or something to do, some cerebral event, we don't really know, but she's passed away. We've had her funeral, and yeah, I wasn't really thinking that Judd was gonna like go bury Norma, his wife, up at the burial grounds and resurrect her, but I'm thinking that is coming, something like that is coming with someone else who's going to pass away. The one thing that I'm probably the most curious about is that Judd seems a little bit possessed, you know? Okay, that's my new theory. He seems a little bit possessed, and Louis keeps remarking that, is Judd being told to say these things to me? Was Judd told to take me and Church up to the burial grounds to resurrect him? It seems like some other force is acting through Judd, which is really creepy, and I'm just wondering what that force is. Obviously, we had the force, I'm assuming, kind of like reanimating Victor's body and making him appear in Louis' dream. So no other like huge event has happened so far. Like Church is still around acting like a zombie, but mostly it's just been like a good, fun, healthy, like quite a nice, loving family of people you genuinely and generally respect and like feel happiness for, that like they've got their life together. Louis and Rachel's relationship is quite strong. They like, you know, it's just like a good picture of a good family who looks out for each other and who's there for each other, and that's what makes it all the more devastating when things happen to them, because you genuinely like, unlike the family in The Shining, I think, who obviously have a lot of issues, you genuinely like the family in Pet Sematary and you're rooting for them and you're happy for them when they're happy and you're sad for them when they're sad. The whole like Church resurrected from the dead thing, and the fact that he's a zombie cat, and the fact that he is killing maybe bigger and bigger creatures, like he just brought in a crow to the family home, that stuff, I'm more upset about the way that they're treating Church now that they have him back from the dead. Louis has obviously got the creeps from him. Eileen doesn't let him sleep in her bed anymore. Everyone just kind of hates Church now, and it's really sad because like he's not really doing anything. Like, yeah, he's a little off, he's a little weird, he's a little zombie cat, but he's just kind of like slow and stinky, and they're being really mean to him for no reason. Even though he's acting a little bit creepy, I feel like he just needs some love. Yeah, I'm just worried that because they're acting like really mean to him, like we just had a scene where Louis literally kicked Church, and then another scene where he like whipped one of his son's like toy cars at Church, which is obviously very symbolic, but he just like whipped it at the cat and it like bounced off of the cat. First of all, don't treat your dead cat like that. Second of all, you're gonna be the reason that he turns mean and eats you, and then it's gonna be your own fault. So yeah, I'm just a little bit upset about that, and I just feel bad for Church because like you brought him back from the dead just to be mean to him. Just to be mean to him, like come on. It flies by. You just really do get sucked in. And I really love, like in The Shining as well, and I'm assuming in a lot of King novels, there is a ton of foreshadowing, like so much foreshadowing, but it's never foreshadowing that feels cheap or lazily done or melodramatic or over the top. It feels really natural, and I just really enjoy it. Yeah, on the topic of like giving things away or being able to guess things in Stephen King novels, I don't think like that's not really what he's going for. It's not like a mystery that you have to solve, because in The Shining and in this one really recently, he just tells you, like the narrator just will lay down point blank people who are going to pass away within the next few weeks of the narrative, and it does come as a shock because it's kind of just wedged into a sentence that this character you're following is about to drop dead in probably the next 100 pages. But I like that, and I like the way it's well done, and I'm not ever like, oh, like you're giving us that information way before that event ever actually takes place. I think everything works, to be honest. Everything works. The themes, again, that we're exploring here are fantastic. Obviously, the big one, especially, I don't think I told you, but the book starts with Lazarus's resurrection, or part of it. Jesus is like, yo, let's go in to see Lazarus, that I may awake him out of his sleep. So it starts with like John's gospel, but so much of this book is people's really scared, traumatic attitudes towards death, how death is not something they want to interact with, how it's obviously this big, scary thing that causes so much grief, so much rupture. It's something, like, it's the ultimate fear for so many people. So much of Pet Sematary deals with the fact that these people, like, that is, like, the most horrific thing. It's something that if they could fix it, they could. I mean, there's a reason why as well, like, Louis is a doctor. Their cat's name is Church. That's very symbolic. And the fact that they've resurrected their cat because of the fact that their daughter doesn't want to let the cat go, doesn't want to let the cat die. She's not ready for that. And she's not ready for that because her mom, Rachel, is so deeply traumatized by the death of her sister that she does not want to admit even the idea of death or even the teachings of death or like death as a reality into her family. And that's why this whole thing has happened with their dead cat in general, because Louis and Judd were like, okay, maybe it's not a good idea yet for Eileen and Rachel to have to go through this together. And it's because everyone has been so horrified by the ceasing of life. And yeah, anyway, wonderfully awful passages that I had to read this morning of their son, Gage, who's like maybe 2 years old now. I did kind of guess that he was going to die. To be honest, I thought he was going to kick it around Halloween with the virus he contracted. No, of course not. Of course, the symbolism from the start, of course, the road, and of course, Judd's warning that, like, hey, don't let your kids play near the road. Yeah, little man has been taken out by a semi. In just like the most horrific probable scenario that could ever happen to a parent, because they're all playing on the front lawn. He starts to run away from his parents. They obviously try to call him back. They try to chase him, but it's too late. He's gotten to the road. And there's a big truck. Oh my god. And it's told like through flashes, because part 2 of the book that I started, like, we're at his funeral. And things are not great. Rachel has gone somewhere back in her mind. She's become so traumatized, obviously, by seeing this happen right in front of her. And obviously, I'm assuming both parents are really blaming themselves for what happened, that she's not in the right space or time. She thinks it's like years past. I'm assuming I know what's going to happen next, which is that Louis is going to drag his dead kid up to the burial grounds and bury him. Depending on where this goes, I've heard this has a crazy whack ending that might really disturb me, but I think The Shining, just with like the violent alcoholic man, that is like more scary to me personally than anything so far in here. Is he gonna go bury his son up there? Guys, does he go bury his son in the burial grounds? Do we have the toddler? Do we have the undead toddler? The terrible twos? Also, that's going to be even worse if he does that, actually, because, like they said in this passage, in this chapter, it, like, really needs to be a closed coffin funeral because of the way that he died. Maybe that's what he means by he took it too far. I'm really interested to see what, like, King thinks that he took too far. I don't know. Good morning and welcome to day 4 of reading Pet Sematary. I think this is our final day together reading this book, and I think today is actually the perfect day to take you to the Pet Sematary. I am going to be finishing this book today, totally 100%. I have less than 100 pages. Guys, I don't remember what I told you last time. Anyway, I woke up to the most foggy fog day. We're gonna go check out the Pet Sematary. It is an older one, definitely not, I don't think, as far back as the one in King's book goes, and it is much smaller than the one in King's book, but the first time I saw it, I just was not expecting it, and like I said, I hadn't ever seen a Pet Sematary before. I just started crying because, like, the scenes in Pet Sematary, the novel, it's really, like, powerful, and because, like, we don't see, I think, a lot of honoring places for animals that aren't us, it just really hits you, especially the inscriptions, especially knowing that probably a lot of children were involved with these, the same as in the novel too. So it was just really emotional when I saw it for the first time. And yeah, I don't know if any of the animals buried therein ever came back to life. We're gonna go see, and then I might see as well if after we visit the cemetery I can go bone collecting. You're gonna see in the bigger weekly vlog coming after this, but one of my new hobbies that I found I really love this year has been like beachcombing for bones. I've collected quite a little collection of bones. We're gonna go to the pet cemetery and collect some bones today. Not from the pet cemetery. Unless, no.
Look at these. Milo. We loved you your whole life. We'll miss you for the rest of our lives. Oh.
The big trek to the pet cemetery was made, and yeah, I think it's just a beautiful small little cemetery. There's maybe like, what was there, like seven or eight graves in there, but there's like dogs named Winnie the Pooh and Revel and Caesar, and there's a cat named Friskers, and they date, some of them, I mean, they're all different dates and stuff belonging to the same family living in the house, but yeah, it's such a nice place down by the water. And then this time I actually discovered that there is a more modern little, more like a memory garden. It's not another, no one's buried their animals there, but it's a little memory garden outside the, you know, the very much older pet cemetery, right next to it, where all these people have put their stones with their dogs' names on it and little inscriptions. And that was just so nice. If you've ever seen a pet cemetery, let me know, because I'm curious what they look like in other places and also how big the ones you've seen are. And yeah, but it's a nice calming place to be. And whenever I'm down there, there's a lot of people. There's some people, at least, who are going to visit the pet cemetery and see the pets, so that's nice. I wonder what happens there after dark. Tonight is hopefully the evening where we will be finishing Pet Sematary, because I'm kind of ready to be done with it and see what happens, to be honest. So this update, we are 306 pages in to Pet Sematary, and oh boy. The one critique I would like to make is that I think the is this part 3? Is it still part 2 or part 3? The pacing definitely starts to lag a little bit, I think, once we get to part 3, like the lead up to Gage's death, Gage's funeral, the aftermath of the funeral. We spend a lot more time in there, and I don't think, anyway, I just would have shortened it a little bit, but it's really a small complaint, to be honest. So I think you know what's happening. Yeah, so the funeral did not go totally swimmingly because I haven't mentioned this. It hasn't been a huge thing. It's quite important though. Louis does not get along with Rachel's parents. In fact, Rachel's parents never wanted Louis to marry her. They just don't like him, blah, blah, blah. And so at Gage's funeral, Louis and Rachel's father start going at it. And at one point they tumble into the coffin and the coffin falls over and the coffin almost unlatches and spills out his son's body, which was crazy. Now that the funeral is over, Louis is obviously going over like, hey, I resurrected our cat. Maybe I should resurrect our son. I don't know. Do not do that. Judd, of course, knows what Louis is thinking. I feel like I feel like I've thought through this whole video and this whole reading process that Judd has been like the villain. I think that now is what I'm most curious about. I'm like, what's going on there? What is controlling that? What's causing these animals / people to come back? Because we finally do learn that someone was resurrected through the burial grounds, a person. And Judd goes over and he's like, hey, Louis dude, I know what you're thinking. Don't do it, it's not worth it, and I'll tell you why. Because during World War II, someone from their town was shipped back home to the US after he was shot serving in, I think, Italy, and his father was like, I'm gonna bury this guy. So this kid, like the 17-year-old named Timmy, comes back to life. He's not looking great, he's not doing great, he's not sweet old little Tim. He's not Tiny Tim from before. He's a menace, he's an absolute menace. And obviously everyone in town is like, what the heck, didn't your kid like die in the war? Everyone is really creeped out because we have this like zombie guy walking up and down the street. Like he'll just walk down the street, walk back down the street, walk up the street, walk back down the street. He's got that vacant look. But eventually his father just, I think, like tries to lock him up in the house because he's creepy. And the way it's described is so creepy. He was like a zombie in a movie, but he wasn't. There was something more. There was something going on behind his eyes. And sometimes you could see it and sometimes you couldn't see it. Something behind his eyes. I don't think that thinking is what I want to call it. It was sly, that was one thing. There was something going on in there, but I don't think it was thinking, and I don't think it had much, maybe nothing at all, to do with Timmy Baton. It was more like a radio signal that was coming from somewhere else. The people in town go up to Timmy's father and they're like, yo, we know you have a zombie. We know your kid's a zombie, man. And obviously his father gets quite defensive and he's like, no, Timmy's fine, look at him. And Timmy's over there like, eventually, Timmy starts going off, screaming and telling all of the men from town horrible things about themselves that no one knows, that like really no one should know, no one could possibly know. And how could Timmy know this? But Timmy, it's not really Timmy, it's like a demon. It's like demon Timmy. And then eventually what ends up happening is that Timmy's father takes care of Timmy and then takes care of himself, and then he burns his house down and there's no more of that. So Judd's like, hey, just so you know, that's what happens if you resurrect a person. They become like kind of this demonic entity that I think will try to kill you. So Louis at this point is obviously going over it, being like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? At the same time, his family's obviously kind of falling apart, but the whole thing is so sad because what his family needs, like, yeah, Rachel is obviously devastated, his daughter is devastated. What they need is him. And they need to be together and they need to stick together and they need to get through this awful thing that has happened together. And instead Louis is like, hey, why don't you guys take a mom-daughter trip down to Chicago and I'll go on a little father-son trip of my own. I think he's doing this, Louis, I think is doing this because he thinks that his family needs this. He thinks that his family will benefit more if Gage is alive, even if he's as changed and altered as he would be after he's dug up and resurrected. But in reality, like, that's not the case. Like, his family is gonna be okay. He just can't see it. He can't see it in the moment. And he wants to dig Gage up as quickly as possible because he thinks the sooner he digs Gage up, the less likely it is for Gage to be a little monster like Timmy was, because by the time Timmy was resurrected, it was many days after he was originally killed in battle. So Eileen has been having these dreams where Gage comes back to life and tries to kill their entire family. So yeah, Louis is like, I'm gonna resurrect my son, and if I resurrect him and he's a little demon guy, I'm just gonna take him out. I'm just gonna take him out. But if he's not, I will make a diagnosis, and if I think he's okay after coming back from the dead, if he's okay to like reintegrate into our family, then that's what I'll do. I don't know. I just woke up. I literally fell asleep. I'm so tired. I just woke up. There was a beautiful red-tailed hawk that just went right by my window, but it is a beautiful morning now to finally finish the last pages of Pet Sematary. I just got really tired, and I guess it couldn't have been that scary because fell asleep, slept like a log. I don't even remember having any dreams at all. We're gonna finish this off now. I just read a few more pages and I'm on page 364. The one thing I do want to say before wrapping this up, like before reading, finding out what happens, is that the pacing has really slowed down. Like the parts now where like obviously we know Louis is going into the grave to dig up his son, it's taking so long. It's taking so long for things to happen after the pacing of the rest of the book. And I found this with The Shining too, but I really loved probably like 3/4 of what I was reading. That was definitely like 4-5-star material. And then the ending of the book, I don't know, I felt this way with The Shining. I've heard a lot of people feel this way with King's novels in general, that they just don't stick the landing. I'm not as into it as I was before, and it just feels like it's, I don't know, something has happened with the overall narrative of the book. However, the writing, the really beautiful writing, bumped up a star when Louis was digging his son out, taking his son up to the burial ground, burying him. There was so much like symbolism. It was very dreamlike, and it just had some of like King's most beautiful writing in the novel so far. I mean, I think that's a great place to put it, with like the, you know, the juxtaposition of the terror and the sublime and the horror at what he's doing, but with the beauty of the forest and nature and the stars above, and just the way that his senses are so heightened because of like obviously what he's doing. He's pushed past the brink of exhaustion. No one is stopping this, by the way. Judd has fallen asleep. I'm now at the part where like the toddler is awake, and his first stop was his home, where he went into Louis's room and rifled in his medicine bag, which is not great. So obviously it's not really Gage. It's just like, I guess, a demonic presence in the body of a toddler. Anyway, I'm so tired, but we're gonna finish this. You know what? To be honest with you, it's because the F1 stuff is in Australia this weekend, and that's not my time zone, so I've been up late. What? The kid demon and the cat demon are working together. They're accomplices. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Rachel's got her car working again. She like flew more than halfway, now she's driving back to Ludlow, like the town, but she's back on Route 50 now. She had decided to go directly to Judd's. Gage, her son, is at Judd's. What if she hits him with her car? What if she hits her kid with her car? And then the thing that like Louis was trying to help her with, that would be ironic. Okay, never mind. She gets there fine. Oh my gosh. There it is. Someone ate someone. What did I say? Someone is chomping. So I'm on page 384. Judd's dead. Rachel's dead. Louis has now killed Church again. And so I guess like they can be killed again, even though they're like, I don't really know how it works, to be honest. Doesn't matter. And now he's gonna try to kill Gage again. The only thing I don't really understand, and I guess maybe it doesn't matter, but so far the things that have been resurrected, like Church or other animals, or even the story of Timmy that we got, the human we know was resurrected, they've been like obviously quite slow and even a little bit weak, and physically don't seem that capable. Like they sway a lot. It's remarked that Timmy's walk is like very slow, stiff. It looks like it takes a lot of effort, but Gage, who is also a toddler, so I feel like he should be even worse, is like totally just stabbing down these people with no problem at all. Okay, Louis just thought as well he's as clumsy as Church, but I guess like, I don't know, I guess I misread that as they're not as powerful or not as, like, I just thought Gage wouldn't really be able to do something like this. I'm like, okay, you brought your toddler back from the dead, but how is he gonna get ya. You know, he's yay big. Okay, so the face is like rippling and it's becoming, I think it's the face of the Wendigo. So he's not really seeing his son anymore. Okay. I'm not like overjoyed at that ending, to be honest. I just finished it and I read the epilogue as well. I think my first thought when I was reading, like when reading the climax, is that throughout the book, none of the stuff that's been happening, like suspending my disbelief obviously to believe or to enter into the realm where animals can come back from the dead, none of it felt cartoonish, none of it felt garish, none of it felt silly or like melodramatic, like I said, or over the top. It all felt very natural, I think, because it was grounded in such a real place, a real family, real grief, real feelings, and like real, yeah, just real people's darkness within them and trauma. And obviously Rachel's fear of death, Louis as a doctor, Eileen's love for her cat, Gage's toddler innocence, and I don't know, I think the last few pages of the book, probably the last, like, from the time when Louis buries Gage, I felt that kind of drop away, and it did become a little garish and like, not like cheap, but it just was wearing a little bit thin for me. And when Gage comes back and his like, or it's not really Gage, right? It's like the demon or the Wendigo, or I mean, it kind of seems like it's a demon from hell, honestly, because he tells Judd, the demon or slash Gage, tells Judd that he's been down in hell and he's seen his wife and he's sharing all these terrible secrets. But it really started to feel a bit like I want to laugh. It feels a little bit farcy, and I never felt that way until now. Like throughout the rest of the book, I've been like quite immersed, and I'm like, this is like done very well. Like it's done very well, to be honest. But yeah, the last few pages, along with the last few pages of The Shining, to be honest, I'm just like, okay, it's getting a bit grandiose, melodramatic, cartoonish, a little bit cartoonish for sure. And the ending was just like, okay. Louis goes over to Judd's house. He sees Rachel dead. He also sees that Rachel's been like kind of eaten a little bit, and he sets fire to the house, but not before he takes Rachel's body out and then takes her up to the burial ground again, because like he's just lost it at this point, just totally knocked over by grief. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing with Pet Sematary, is like that's the fear of losing your loved ones and of wanting them back so badly that you'll do these crazy things to try and see them one more time. Yeah, to be honest, again, did not stick the landing for me, but I really enjoyed my time with this. The book ends with Louis at his kitchen table and someone walks into the house, and who is it? It's obviously Rachel in like demon spirit form, and she's like, hello darling, and then the book just ends. So like, the cat wasn't in it as much as I wanted. Okay, I wanted the cat to be in it more. I wanted more animals to be in it, but that's not really what Pet Sematary is about. It's about what church represents, the loss of innocence, where you believe you're this kid living in this world where there's not, you know, suffering isn't a huge part of your existence yet. The people you love aren't dying yet, and you don't really know what death is. And for a lot of people, their childhood pets or growing up with animals, that's their first introduction to that. That's their first real grief. I think it's a grief that is unlike any other, because it's your first, and because you're so young, and because also it's your animal companion, it's your animal friend. It hits so hard. And then the rest of the book is just about that feeling over and over and over again, knowing you're going to lose people over and over and over again. So I really loved the exploration of grief in here. To be honest, when he digs Gage up from the grave, and like it's this father looking at the body of his dead son who's been dead a few days, like that, he could have stopped there. I hope you can't hear my dishwasher. I'm back many hours later. No, I've still not fixed my hair. It's not happening today. It's not happening today. My wrists hurt. I realized like over the years it's not the best idea to end the reading vlog the second I finish the book, because then that doesn't let me like mull over it, stew over it, think about it. I just have like my initial reaction and feelings upon finishing the book. Anyway, I've had time, I mean a few more hours at least, to pull myself together and try to get some of my last thoughts, feelings, critiques of Pet Sematary together, and I think I have them, hopefully, maybe. I mean, I still finished it this morning, so we're gonna give it our best shot. You guys obviously saw that I was quite disappointed with the ending of Pet Sematary, probably even more so than with The Shining. I guess I'm just dumb, but throughout the whole book, and even at the ending, I was like, okay, well, you didn't give me any answers. I wanted to know what exactly was, like, bringing people back to life, what was reanimating the dead cats, the dead dogs, like what is bringing all these things back to life. I thought that was going to be explored more. It like wasn't. I guess it kind of was, but it wasn't, and I naively thought that it wasn't just like, oh, Stephen King is just saying that the indigenous burial ground is evil. But now that I'm done the book, I'm like, no, it feels like that's what he's saying. So with that thought in mind, I went and I did some research. I read a couple essays, and I'm back, and I guess that's the conclusion. Obviously, throughout the whole book, the Judd thing, okay? I've just been on the Judd train, and to be honest, I think that would have made a much better story for this, like, nice elderly couple across the street to, in fact, be, like, vampires. Like, it's never really explained either why Judd is so lively and healthy, and I think that's the reason that I just suspected him so much, because he's, like, so athletic at 83, and I just can't, like, he needs to drop his fitness routine. I just could not believe that he was not possessed, that he was not a vampire, that he was not something otherworldly or like possessed by demons or something, but in the end he is just like a mostly kind elderly man who has been a little bit possessed and swayed by the power of the burial ground. Like, is that it? Like, it's just the power of the burial ground that is somehow malignant and like also a demonic presence, and like King has somehow also surmised that like the spirit or whatever it might be that he's invented for the burial ground has access to hell and like other spirits down there and knows what they're thinking. I don't know, that whole mishmash just did not. The Wendigo is brought up one more time. I think I mentioned when Louis makes his final journey with Gage, or like not his final journey, right? Because he takes Rachel up there. The journey with Gage, at least, he runs into the Wendigo, or thinks it's the Wendigo in the forest, and he kind of almost gets brushed by it. So I'm assuming it's the spirit of the Wendigo that is reviving people through the burial ground. I think finishing it just does feel a little bit empty and wrong. I don't know what I was expecting, but I think because at the beginning it mentioned the reparations that were trying to go on at the time that King was writing this book, at the time that the novel begins. It mentions the land claims of the Micmacs. It mentioned that, you know, many people are in court over this. People are trying to get their land back. The land that the Creeds buy that has the Pet Sematary on it, and then beyond that has the burial ground on it, that's all of their land. I don't know, nothing comes of that. In fact, just bad things come of that, because it's just people in the town using a sacred space as a place to bring back evil. There's two good pieces I've read so far. The first one is called Indigenous Burial Spaces in Media, Views of Micmac Cemeteries as Sites of Horror and the Sacred by Jennifer Stern. This one I found free to read online. You don't need a fancy library pass or anything. Probably the best example of this is that for burials, this says that stones have to be placed on the grave to weigh the body down, and that there's like part of the measures taken to prevent reanimation. But in Pet Sematary, Judd is like, yeah, make a cairn, pile those rocks up there, that's gonna make sure they resurrect. So it's just like a complete, just not even bothering to do any research, get anything right about that. Like at the beginning of the novel, they mention land claims in the area, but by the end of the novel, people, I think Judd and Louis are just speaking like the Micmacs like don't exist anymore. Like they're not on the land, they're not around, they're not there. When like obviously even today that's not true at all. I think Judd repeating someone else's words, that all indigenous people are hellbound, but that their magic worked because they were Christians all the same in some queer damned way. I guess that explains one of the main problems that I had, which I was just like, why is this ground resurrecting people? The essay that I mentioned talks a lot about that, not just in Pet Sematary, but across media in general. And then the other essay that I read briefly, I just touched on this one. I'm not going to talk about this too much because otherwise I think we've already been here for an hour, but I just thought I would mention it in case anyone wants to read it. I think it's called Is Zelda Dead Yet? And Zelda is Rachel's sister, who I mentioned throughout the book, whose death really scarred Rachel and just left her completely traumatized from death and illness. I think the full thing is called Is Zelda Dead Yet? Disability, Mortality, and Appropriation, maybe, in Pet Sematary. I think this is by Melissa Rain, perchance, but this one is mostly about Zelda. Yeah, good piece too, and more generally talks about like gothic fiction and disability at the same time. So yeah, Now that I've finished this, to be honest, I do wish it was Judd. And why, guys, why? It's still on my mind. Why does he have better fitness than like 35-year-old Louis? Why is he so good at cardio? Why is he just like the picture of health? Is it just a coincidence? Like, that was never, I don't know, that was never, yeah. The other two questions I have after finishing Pet Sematary is that Victor, maybe he's 20-something-year-old man who got hit by the car and who has appeared to Louis and his family in dreams, like warning him and trying to help him. I'm like, who is he? He's just this random dude? He's just this random dude who can come into their dreams and like warn them of what's happening. He's the one who gives Eileen her premonitions about what her father's doing with Gage. So I'm like, is he just a random guy? I think finally I really do just wish that it had been Judd who was the scary one, who was like murdering the animals, because in the end my theory was wow, my dishwasher. In the end my theory was completely wrong. I guess Church really was just hit by the truck. I've just been suspecting Judd throughout the whole book, but it turns out Judd did not break Church's neck. He didn't kill any animals. He didn't do any of that. I thought that's where this was going. I really thought the Pet Sematary was going to be bigger than it actually was in Pet Sematary. To be honest, I wish it had been more about the Pet Sematary. That is Pet Sematary. Those are my final thoughts. There's a lot I liked about this. There's a lot I did not like about this. Yeah. And anywho, if you made it all the way to this video, please, of course, leave me a little cats emoji. Thank you to you guys for continuously recommending me books to read and things you think I should try. And of course, now that I have finished The Shining and Pet Sematary and also Carrie on the audiobook a long time ago, where do I go from here now? Which one do I pick up next? Where do I go? Help me out. But yeah, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for choosing to spend like your precious time with me here. And I hope you have a really great day, morning, evening, night. Say hello to your cats and dogs and parakeets from me. And until then, I will see you guys really soon. Take care of yourselves. Ciao.